Hi, and welcome back to 30 Minutes Drawing Journal with Tammy. Um, just showing you a betta fish that I just did a few hours ago. I was mentioning how it's good to draw at least 30 minutes every day, and I missed the last couple of days because I was on the road. And then when I was able to or wanted to sit down and draw, I was too exhausted. So this is where life does get in the way. When you're trying to draw 30 minutes every day, you try and do your best, but there's always not that opportunity. But if you can do it, do it. So this was my beta, and again, this took 30 minutes, and we're going to start on our next 30 minutes. Again, you can easily follow along with me, or you can use your own and just draw with me. So today we're going to do a simple turtle. So I'm starting off with my HB just to quickly sketch out the placement of my turtle. Sometimes, like I said, we draw too small or too large, and this is a good way of being able to erase everything, but it's just also to put the basic lines down so that when you do go back in, you're able to go over them with darker lines to correct your drawing. So I know the cherries took 3 days, so I'm trying now to just do each one for 30 minutes for one day each, so this way I can get more drawing done in different animals or nature. So again, you're just quickly sketching out your subject. And I have a lot of reference photos that I'm using. And this one is not going to get everything on. I probably should have turned it sideways. But again, this is just me journaling my animals that I come across, mammals or insects or whatever. And as I mentioned, you can take your 30-minute drawing tablet anywhere you want. I'm at a campground in Ravenna, Ohio. That's where I road tripped and was on the road for a few days. That's why I have not been able to journal anything. And I felt bad. That's why I went ahead and did the beta earlier today. I just wanted to sit and draw for 30 minutes, so I'm doing another 30 for you guys. And again, this is just placement. So once I have that with that was my 4H on that one. I'm going to go back on my with a 2B, and I'm going to start defining a little bit more. Again, being that this is just 30 minutes, I'm not going to focus as much. I'm just going to do quick sketching. As you can see, I'm making corrections. And I don't try and erase until towards the end if I still have time to get in more detail. And again, I'm sketching things that I want to or I enjoy drawing. There will be times I will challenge myself on something that I don't find easy. And again, I apologize for my videoing. I'm hoping that when I get back, I'll have a much better system set up. So again, I'm just going in and I'm still just quickly sketching it out. And making my corrections. When you're doing 30-minute sketches, or when you're just sketching, you get as much detail as you want in what you're trying to achieve in your subject matter. Because sometimes this is more just getting your studies in, getting, what is it when you turn it into a painting or a more final piece? This allows you to understand your subject a little bit more. It's like you're taking a pre-test before you take the final test. You're studying everything that there is to know about what your subject matter is. See, right here I realize I dropped that down too low. So I have to come back up and correct it. And again, like I said, everybody does things differently. My way may not be your way, but if you're able to learn something from what I'm showing, that's the plus.
No. No. I got my cat. Stay here.
And you just keep working. We have someone just came over for a visit, so I don't want to be rude, but we're in the middle of this drawing, so they'll have to wait. And again, just keep working in light strokes to work in the different designs and the patterns. And I'm not going to go into great detail unless within the 30 minutes I'm able to. And when you see me doing lines like this, I'm trying to measure perspective in what I'm doing with what I'm seeing. And again, each time I go into more detail, I'll make even more corrections. There's someone setting off fireworks in the background. So again, this can get as detailed as you want or as simple as you want. But I would just use the 30 minutes for as putting in as much detail or as much information, because it might be wherever you're at on location, traveling. Unless you take pictures, you're not going to go back home with the picture or the building in front of you, so you have to capture it some way. So sketch it out, take a picture of it, get to know the subject matter before you turn it into a bigger piece of art. I always feel that when you know your subjects, you're able to draw them with better detail and information. And don't always expect it to come out perfect if you're a beginner. Just keep practicing, and you'll notice that by the end of your journal, if you go back to the very first one, how much you've grown. That's what I find that these are great for, is where were you from the beginning to the end? Did you grow? Did you learn? See how much you've improved. Also, they're great for if you're run out of ideas. You can refer back to your journal, and then you might find something that inspired you in one of your studies. Okay, that was a 2B that I was working with. Now I'm going to go back and start working with my 4B. So here I'm going to go with a little bit more detail and really start getting my turtle a little bit more detailed. I might end up erasing now, because still within my 30 minutes, I'm able to get more engrossed in what's going on. And I believe the more you do these, the faster your 30-minute sketches will be. Not saying we're trying to rush to get them completely done in 30. If you can, that's great. And if not, don't worry. Decide to continue it like we did the cherries. If you want to take 2 or 3 days out to do it, go for it. The subject or the everything behind this is to draw, practice. If this is something you enjoy doing and want to make a living out of it, we have to do this every day. Okay, so we're at the park or at the campground, so you are going to hear other events and things going on around while I'm drawing. That's where you draw on location. Sometimes it's good to take a sketchbook to like a restaurant or an off the beaten path, and you never know what you're going to pick up or hear. You might find you want to sketch the people around you or your location. And again, I'm not pressing too hard in some of my areas. Unless I find that my placement is good, then I'll go a little bit darker. And again, when you're using your blending stump, you always want to use the side of your blending stump. And you want these puppies to get dirty. You don't want them nice and clean each time because you want the graphite that's on the tips to work on your piece, to move it around. And 'cause if you have a brand new one, you're going to have to, on a sandpaper or a piece of paper, put some graphite down to rub your blending stump on to actually dirty up your blending stump. Or your blending tool, whichever I've always known it as a blending stump. I think there's a different terminology used these days. And see, I didn't erase that line where I made the mistake. I'm just going to work with it as I'm sketching. Because there's no need to go in and erase unless you want to. I'm not saying there's no need, but when you're doing quick sketches, you really don't need to erase that much. So there's a lot of texture going on in here, but again, this is 30 minutes. I don't want to spend all that time unless you want to. Like I said, you can get as detailed with these as you want. Or you can just get the basics of your subject matter so that when you go to do a final big piece of it, you can refer to this for the layout, or just see if it's something you want to draw or paint. After you do these, you may find, no, that doesn't interest me, at least at this time, but maybe down the road it might. And sometimes I go in and just want to use the blending stump just to get my basics. To show some of the pattern, and if I have time, I'll go back in a little bit more. With detail. So this time I'm not talking very much, I realize. I think I'm a little bit more focused in what I'm working on. And I'm trying to show working a little bit faster, just to get kind of a true 30 minutes in, I guess. I feel like the cherries were just getting me out here, just to get me start to draw, to see exactly what I wanted to do and how I wanted to do it. And I felt, okay, 3 days was just a little bit too long. Oops, sorry guys. 30 days was just a little bit too long to work on what I'm trying to achieve. So I changed it up a little bit, but I have that right. I'm a woman. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. I just felt like I wasn't getting the best of what I want to achieve. So I thought, let's make these a little bit more of a true 30-minute sketching. Now I do 30 minutes. Sometimes I think the beta that I did prior to this took me a little bit longer, but I was in the mood. So go with your mood, as long as you're doing something every day. And this is just kind of more of indications of that there's patterns that go on there. I'll have to admit though, drawing in a new location outside, you just don't know what's going to come by. But it's also kind of rejuvenating to do this outside of a studio. But it's just kind of preparing myself for my upcoming, when I do travel a little bit more, kind of get familiar with drawing and showing you different areas where you can draw, where you can create. So I'm just going to come back in and kind of draw a little bit with my eraser. Again, this is just a study. Some of my areas I feel I got just a little too dark. And this area is pretty dark. Like I said, there's a lot of detail that goes on in here. There's a lot of and you can easily indicate those in your drawing and your sketching here and there to show that there's some textures or something going on. Again, these will be your 30 minutes. What do you want to see and what do you hope to achieve? What's your goal? This is kind of like my journal. Well, it is my journal. I kind of like it is my journal that I can come back to. It's also like, going out and taking photos. You're creating photos in your journal of where you've been, what you want to do, what your future projects are. is something you should carry around with you all the time to put your ideas, your concepts, everything in that you want to achieve. Put it in your journal. Talk about what your goals are, what you like, what you want to do on your next one. What was it why you want to do this? What excites you about it? I just now have to admit that before I never noticed that when I was doing this without blogging it for myself, 30 minutes seemed to go on forever and ever. But since I've started doing this, 30 minutes goes very quickly. That's why I say 30 minutes a day is doable unless you're on the road. I haven't found a way to drive and draw at the same time. If I do, I will definitely let you guys know. So I'm getting close to where I need to wrap this up for my 30 minutes. It might be something that I might continue when I sign off, or make this be it. This is my 30. Some days it's going to look like the bomb. You're like, oh my gosh, that looks so good. And other days you're going to go, where am I going with this? I can't feel it. I can't get past it. But you just keep plugging through. You don't stop. You just keep working it and working it and working it until you figure out what it is that you're trying to do. Because if you don't work past it, you're never going to get it resolved. You're going to keep trying to, or you're going to keep making your same mistakes over and over. So if you can try and keep working on it, and that's where a lot of artists don't finish their pieces, because they can't figure it out. They get stuck, but if you keep working with it, sooner or later it's going to come together like you want. And that's just because you didn't give up. So, and you really don't need to clean up any of your sketch lines, because this is just a your sketch. So this is basically my turtle. I probably could have done it sideways instead of up and down on the page, but this is him. So a lot of corrections was made, and I still can go back in and put a lot more darkness and shadows in. And again, like I said, this is up to you and how much you want to make this as sketchy as you want, as detailed as you want. If you wanted just to focus on the scales of what's going on in here, you can easily go in and just focus on those areas and work them in. If you're doing a close-up of a turtle, I know you'll find I'll do a lot of wildlife because I love doing wildlife, and there's so many endangered species out there, so I do enjoy doing them. So this is my turtle, and I'm going to go ahead and sign off on him and call him done. So I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. And again, I'm at a park, enjoying some camping for this Labor Day, is it Labor Day weekend? So I hope you enjoyed our 30-minute drawing journal with Tami, and I hope to see you tomorrow. Until then.